Hello friends. Okay Hunter, you requested how to make homemade ketchup, so this video is specifically for you. I found this recipe on the Todd Wilbur's top secret recipe site, and I think it's pretty close. Outside of having the ketchup recipe from the companies who put that out, it's pretty close, Okay, what you will need, this is a one pot wonder. You need one pot, of course, your heat source, whether it be your stove or a tabletop one like I have. Little handy dandy trick is some vegetable spray, and you'll see why in a moment. Can opener, electric or this, it's fine. A wire whisk. You know, here's a good FYI for your Friday. If your wire whisk is in the wash, or you don't have a wire whisk, but you have a spaghetti strainer, normally use this with spaghetti. The little noodles get caught in these little teeth, and you just scoop your spaghetti out. We're going to use this as a stand-in for the whisk. I found that to be useful. You might need a rubber spatula. Matter of fact, you will need a rubber spatula or a spoon to stir your food with. All right, first things. We need our ingredients, of course. Our ingredients list is 1 6-ounce can tomato paste, 1/2 cup light corn syrup, 1/4 cup water, 1 tablespoon granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon onion powder, and 1/8 teaspoon garlic powder. Don't be afraid of the spices. That's what makes it extra good. Put all our ingredients in one pot. First thing you're going to want to do is open your tomato paste. Now, handy dandy trick. Another FYI for your Friday. We're going to open the bottom of the can. I've already done that. And then we're going to flip it over and open the top all the way around. Why do we do that? Aha! I'll tell you why. Because we're going to use it like a push-up pop and get all this tomato paste out. Don't confuse tomato paste with tomato sauce. It's not the same thing. This is tomatoes that has been reduced down, way down, and compressed, and lots of tomato flavor in there. And usually you only use maybe a tablespoon or 2 in your recipe, but we're using all of tomato paste. Tomato sauce is a much looser, less intense tomato flavor. For all the ones that can't make it into our recipe, they're going to go into the pool party, and then we're going to throw them out later, right? Okay. I want you to take your finger, doesn't matter what end, just push it up a little bit. Oh, and see now how we can take this top piece off. Be careful, there's a sharp edge along. Those are sharp edges. So you want to be careful with that. Put that in your pool party. And with your finger on the bottom end, you see why we didn't take this lid off yet? It's because we want to use that to push the tomato paste right into our pot. You might have to scoop some off, but that's okay. Other way. And look, we won't have to do too much scraping. There's a little bit left in there, but that's okay. We'll just get that out. Look how clean that is. Didn't take much scraping, and there's nothing left on the bottom because there is no bottom. Ah, smart, huh? Okay. Into the pool. All right. We have our 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste. Next, we're going to need a 1/2 cup of light corn syrup. Here's a clue. This is the type of cup that you use to measure liquid ingredients. When you have something sticky, like corn syrup or honey, maple syrup, anything like that, a lot gets left in your measuring cup. But if you spray just a little on the inside, your measuring cup first, and then put in whatever you are measuring, look what happens. You pour it out, and you don't have a bunch sticking. You may just have to pull a little bit out with your spatula, but that's okay. It's why we have a spatula. But you can get most of the ingredient back out. See? That cup would be a lot worse if we didn't do that. Another FYI trick. Wow, I shouldn't get them all away at one time, right? Next, we need a half a cup of white vinegar. We're going to pour in our half a cup of white vinegar. Whoop! Try not to make a mess like I did. It's always good to have a little damp rag, maybe a little, you know, some paper towel close by, just in case you make a mess. Oh my goodness, I just made a mess. By the way, what did one tomato say to the other tomato? You give up? Catch up and I'll tell you later. That was corny, wasn't it? Oh well, forgive me. All right, so we have our vinegar in, and we're going to need a 1/4 cup of water. I've already measured it out into this container. It is a 1/4 cup. We're just going to pour that in, and we'll add our 1 tablespoon of white granulated sugar, just the regular sugar you use. Pour that in. A teaspoon of salt. And then we've got our onion powder. I've already pre-measured. You would just use your measuring spoon. And that's 1/4 teaspoon onion powder and 1/8 teaspoon garlic powder. You want to get those right. You don't want it to taste just like, you don't want it to taste too much of onion. And here's the dandy trick. You see, you can stir this up with your spatula, but it could take a while. Like, have you ever noticed when you made soup out of a can? And it's like, oh my goodness, it's taking forever for me to stir this, the liquid and the soup itself together. It's really concentrated. Well, of course, that's why I use the wire whisk. But remember what I said, if you don't have a wire whisk, maybe it's in the wash. Let's try this. Our spaghetti stirrer. If you have one of these spaghetti stirrers, when I was making my lemon curd this weekend, I thought, remember what I said about lemon curd? You don't want to have any metal touching it at all. And all I had was a wire whisk last time. I'm like, I wonder if I could use this because it's plastic. And you know what? It worked great. And I didn't have to use any metal to make my lemon curd. You see how it's mixing it up? It's doing a pretty good job, isn't it? Well, while we're stirring it up, let's turn our heat on, and we're going to want it to medium-high. Only till our sauce comes to a boil, and then we're going to immediately turn it down and simmer it. Boiling is big, large bubbles coming to the surface. So the minute you see that, you want to turn your heat way down, because you only want little tiny bubbles coming up from the surface. All right, so we're mixing. See, that does a pretty good job, doesn't it? So, in a pinch, if you need a whisk and you don't have one, but you have your spaghetti server, you can use that. So you have many options. You can use a wire whisk, of course, which will really mix it. A wire whisk beats air into your mix too. So you could not use the spaghetti server if you needed to beat a bunch of air into something. You would have to use your whisk. But like for curd, if you have something like that, you could use that. Of course, you also have your rubber spatula, which is great to clean your plates or your pans. Okay, we're going to wait for this to come up to a boil, and once it boils, we're going to turn it way down to a simmer, and we're going to stir it occasionally for 20 minutes. Once we've simmered it for 20 minutes, you want to take your pot off the heat, and then you can pour your sauce into a heat-safe bowl. and then let the ketchup, it will now be ketchup, come to room temperature. That means you just leave it on the counter and let it cool. It may take, I don't know, an hour or more. Who knows how long it takes. I just know it cooks for 20 minutes and we let it cool. Once we've let it cool, it should make 1.5 cups of ketchup. And you can either put it in a jar, this is an old jar I had, or you can put it in a container with the lid, or you can simply use it. If you have a squeeze container, put it in any container that you want. All right, I cleaned up my space some, and can you see? Maybe you can even hear it. It starts to sound like a rumble. And you will see the big bubbles burst to the surface of your ketchup. And once you get a nice good boil going, big burst of bubbles, you turn it down. Now you don't want to burn it, so you can't walk away from the stove. It's going to take you 20 minutes, but once again, if you take your time, you get the best results. You see? I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. I'll let it get a little hotter so you can see where it's bubbling. You see it's bubbling? Okay. Those are pretty big bubbles. Now we're going to want to turn it down. It almost looks like lava, doesn't it? We'll turn our heat down to medium-low and give it a good stir. You can hear how it's cooking along the bottom. Scrape the sides, of course. And now that we've got it down to a simmer, the bubbles are going to become little tiny bubbles bursting to the surface, not those big bubbles. Set your timers now for 20 minutes and occasionally stir. Smells really good. If medium-low is still too high, remember you can turn it down even lower. You just want a few little bubbles coming to the surface, not big ones, just little ones. And stir it, of course, occasionally so you don't burn what's cooking in the bottom of the pan. We don't want burnt ketchup. That would not taste good. You just got the occasional little bubbles popping to the surface. That's good. This is a perfect simmer. Do you see how there's just little bubbles all over the surface? Just little ones. Like a gentle drop of rain into a pool of water. Just little bubbles. Stir it again. And you just keep cooking it for the 20 minutes. Pretty easy, huh? Okay, it's been 20 minutes, and you can see how your sauce has been reduced down, and it's thickened a little bit, and all those flavors have melded together. All right, we're gonna give it one last good stir, scraping the sides, scraping the bottom. We're gonna turn off our heat, get a container to cool our ketchup in. So of course, if you're not old enough to pour hot liquid, have your mom do it, because it's really hot. Because now I'm just pouring it straight into my container. All right, once that is done, see, we're gonna let this sit till room temperature. And that means where you can stand to touch it with your finger. It's not hot, it's just cool to the touch. And once that is done, it could take an hour or more, just depends. If you put it in a more shallow, wider container, it'll take less time to cool. But once you're done, then you're gonna wanna put it in your other container that you're gonna put in the fridge, whether it's a jar, or this could even work. you would put a lid on this and stick this in the refrigerator, and you would eat it from the refrigerator. You want it to get cold, of course. We like cold ketchup, right? Or you can do room temperature if you want, but you want to store it in the refrigerator. And I'm not sure how long this will last. Maybe it can last up to a week or more, but it probably won't last that long because you'll eat it all up before then, right? All right. One note. Make sure you do not put a lid on your pot when you're cooking it. We want to reduce all our ingredients down to make an intense ketchup sauce. And we don't want excess water or steam in our sauce. It'll make it too loose and runny. Okay, once you have your cooled ketchup, since I'm going to put it in my jar, I've just found a big funnel. I'm just going to pour it into the jar. Might not even all fit. Should carry. Almost. Put your lid on it. Stick it in your fridge. Let it get nice and cold. And then put it on your hot dog or your hamburger, wherever you like ketchup. All right, Hunter. I hope you enjoy this. Bye.